Factory worker Marcus Williams was finishing his normal night shift in Detroit and heading home when he experienced engine trouble on I-94 highway and pulled over to the roadside. While waiting for help, when he saw a bright light hovering overhead, he initially thought it was a helicopter. That was until he realized it was beginning to descend over his vehicle and felt the blue beam that transported him into the craft's interior. Welcome to Shelley's Mystery Files. Today I'm going to share with you a story about an incredible abduction experience of a factory worker in Detroit. Let's begin. Marcus, could you first introduce yourself and tell us what your work assignment was at Ford plant that night?
Hello, Shelley. I'm Marcus Williams, 44 years old, and I've been working in the automotive industry for 15 years. I work as a shift supervisor at Ford Dearborn Assembly Plant, mainly supervising truck assembly line operations. That night, October 28th, 2019, I was on a normal night shift from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. schedule. I had production line oversight, quality control checks, and worker coordination responsibilities.
What were your typical night shift duties at Ford Assembly Plant, and was there any unusual activity in production that night?
Standard night shift operations, F-150 truck assembly line supervision, quality control inspections, worker break scheduling, production target monitoring. That night was completely routine, normal production numbers, no equipment problems, full worker attendance. The shift ended normally at 7 a.m., paperwork was completed, handover was made to the next shift supervisor.
How was your departure from the plant, and what was your normal route home? What was the vehicle condition at that time?
I left the plant at approximately 7:15, taking my normal route on Coast 94 westbound toward my home in Livonia. I was driving a 2016 Chevy Silverado. Recent maintenance had been completed. No mechanical issues in previous weeks. It was a normal 25-minute commute, a familiar route I'd taken daily for years. The vehicle was running perfectly when I left the plant parking lot.
When did the car trouble start on I-94 highway, and what were the initial symptoms?
At approximately 7:40, near the Inkster Road exit, I noticed engine power loss. RPM was dropping irregularly, dashboard warning lights were flickering, radio static interference started. Initially, I thought it was a fuel pump problem or electrical issue. I safely pulled over to the shoulder near mile marker 32 and activated my hazard lights.
Were these mechanical problems familiar from your automotive experience? Could you make an immediate diagnosis?
With 15 years of automotive experience, I'm familiar with all types of engine problems. But these symptoms were unusual. Electrical systems having intermittent failure, engine cutting out randomly, complete static on the radio. The pattern didn't match typical mechanical failure. It was more like electromagnetic interference.
What was your assistance plan roadside, and was cell phone communication normal?
I called AAA roadside assistance, but my cell phone signal was weak and call quality was poor. This was unusual for that location. There's normally good coverage. I decided to wait for the service truck and stayed inside the vehicle because it was a cold October morning. Traffic was light on I-94 during the early morning commute period.
When did the first unusual visual sighting occur, and what did you initially see?
At approximately 8 a.m., while waiting for the tow truck, I noticed a bright light overhead. Initially, I thought it was an MDOT highway maintenance helicopter or a news traffic helicopter. But the movement pattern was wrong, too slow, too controlled, hovering motionless above the highway.
Was this hovering light's behavior pattern familiar compared to normal aircraft? Did you notice any distinctive features?
Definitely not normal aircraft behavior. The light was hovering perfectly stationary, no sound, no rotor noise, no engine sound. The size appeared larger than a helicopter, circular shape with a pulsing white light center, smaller lights around the perimeter in red and blue colors.
Could you estimate the object's size, and how was your distance assessment? Were there other vehicles in the area?
I estimated 40 to 50 feet in diameter, hovering at approximately 200 feet altitude directly above my location. Very few vehicles were on the highway at that time. Early morning traffic was light. No other cars were stopped. I seemed to be the only witness to the phenomenon.
Did the object's behavior change over time? How did the movement patterns develop?
Initially, it was stationary hovering, then it began a slow descent toward my vehicle. The movement was very controlled, very deliberate, like it was targeting a specific location. No air disturbance, no wind, completely silent approach. I started feeling nervous and considered leaving the vehicle on foot.
How did this descent behavior feel? And did you consider escape options?
Growing fear and anxiety. I'm an automotive worker, a practical person. I don't believe in UFO stories, but I was witnessing something completely beyond explanation. I considered running to the tree line beside the highway, but the object was directly overhead. I felt trapped in the vehicle.
What happened at the critical moment? Can you describe the blue beam phenomenon?
The object descended to approximately 50 feet above the vehicle, then a brilliant blue light beam extended downward, completely enveloping my truck. The light seemed solid, not normal illumination. Inside the beam, I felt a strange sensation, weightlessness, tingling throughout my body, complete disorientation.
Can you describe the physical sensations inside this blue beam in more detail? How was your consciousness level affected?
The tingling sensation intensified. It felt like electrical current through my entire body, but it wasn't painful. The weightless feeling increased, like gravity was turned off. My vision became blurry, hearing was muffled. Consciousness was fading, but not completely unconscious. I was aware of being lifted, but couldn't control my movement.
How did you experience the transportation process? Can you describe the physical lift sensation?
I felt myself rising inside the light beam. The vehicle below was getting smaller. No sensation of physical force, more like floating upward. I was conscious but unable to control my body, paralyzed but aware. The rising continued until I was inside the craft's interior, then the blue light faded.
What were your first impressions upon arrival at the craft's interior? Can you describe the environment?
The interior had very bright white light, seamless walls and ceiling, no visible seams or joints. The room was approximately 20 feet in diameter, circular in shape. The floor appeared metallic but wasn't cold. The air was clean, no odors, comfortable temperature. Advanced technology was visible but with unfamiliar design.
What did this interior technology include, and were there familiar elements from your automotive background?
The panels and controls were completely unfamiliar, nothing resembling human technology. The surfaces were smooth, no visible buttons or switches seemed touch-activated or thought-controlled. The materials were unlike anything in the automotive industry, no visible welds, joints, or assembly methods.
When did you notice the being's presence, and what was their initial appearance?
3 beings entered the room shortly after my arrival. They were approximately 4 to 5 feet tall, very thin build, large heads proportionate to their height. Their skin was pale gray in color. They had large, dark eyes and minimal facial features. Their movement was fluid and purposeful, clearly intelligent behavior.
What were the being's communication methods? Was there verbal communication?
No audible speech. Communication seemed telepathic. Thoughts and intentions appeared directly in my mind. I wasn't hearing voices, but understanding meaning. Very clear communication, despite no spoken words. Instructions and explanations were transmitted mentally.
What was the content of this telepathic communication? What were the instructions' specifics?
They communicated the necessity of examination, peaceful intentions, no harm intended. They explained their curiosity about human physiology, particularly adaptation to industrial environment and exposure to manufacturing chemicals and materials. They requested cooperation during assessment procedures.
How did the medical examination procedures begin, and what were the initial tests?
I was guided to an examination table that appeared from the floor seamlessly. The table adjusted automatically to my body size. Scanning devices appeared overhead, emitting various colored lights, blue, green, white beams across my entire body. There was no pain, minimal physical contact initially.
What were the characteristics of the scanning technology, and were there familiar sensations from medical procedures?
Unlike any medical equipment I'd experienced, the scans penetrated through clothing and skin, examining internal systems. I could feel the scanning sensation, but no discomfort. Much more advanced than hospital X-rays or MRI technology, it seemed to be analyzing at the molecular level.
How did the physical examination phase proceed? Were there contact-based tests?
After scanning, direct physical examination began. The beings used small handheld instruments taking samples, hair, skin, saliva. Blood was drawn using an unfamiliar method, no visible needle, just touch contact. They examined my hands extensively, particularly calluses from factory work.
What was the focus of this hands examination? How was the factory work interest demonstrated?
They were extremely interested in hand calluses, skin texture changes from metal handling, chemical exposure effects. They asked mentally about daily work routines, manufacturing processes, exposure to industrial materials. They seemed to be studying human adaptation to industrial environment.
What were the specifics of the industrial exposure questions? Did they ask about manufacturing details?
Detailed questions about assembly line work, metal cutting oils exposure, paint fumes, welding exposure, chemical cleaning solvents, duration of exposure daily, protective equipment usage, health effects experienced, very systematic inquiry about industrial toxin exposure.
Was this industrial toxin focus surprising? What was the specialization level in their questions?
Very surprising. The questions were extremely specific about automotive manufacturing. They had knowledge of chemical processes, material composition, health regulations, more detailed than most supervisors know. They had clearly studied human industrial activities extensively.
What was the duration of the examination, and were there other testing phases?
Total examination was approximately 90 minutes, multiple phases: scanning, physical samples, cognitive testing, memory examination. They asked me to recall specific work procedures, demonstrated manual dexterity, problem-solving tasks related to manufacturing.
What were the cognitive testing details, and what were the manufacturing-related tasks?
They asked me to demonstrate assembly procedures mentally, visualize production line operations, recall safety protocols. They were testing manual coordination, reaction time, spatial reasoning abilities. They seemed to be evaluating human capability in industrial environment.
What was the memory examination process like? Did they ask about your past experiences?
They reviewed my work history, industrial accidents I'd experienced, health changes over the years, family medical history. The access seemed direct to memory, not a question-answer format, like downloading information directly from my brain.
How did this direct memory access feel? Did you experience privacy concerns?
It was an unsettling feeling, like private thoughts were being read, but the beings communicated reassurance that the information was for scientific study only. No emotional violation was intended, pure research interest. I was still uncomfortable with the mental privacy invasion.
Did they give additional information about the research purpose? Did they explain the study objectives?
They explained they were studying human adaptation to technological environment, particularly industrial exposure effects. They were monitoring human species development, health changes from manufacturing work. It was part of a long-term observation program.
Did they give details about this long-term observation program? Were other humans being studied?
They indicated an ongoing study of multiple humans, particularly industrial workers, agricultural workers, technology workers, systematic monitoring of human adaptation to changing environment, data collection for understanding human species development.
What happened after the examination was completed? How was the return process initiated?
After examination completion, they communicated that return would occur and memory would be partially blocked for protection. I was guided back to the departure area. The blue light beam was reactivated. The same transportation sensation was reversed, floating downward through the beam.
What was the memory blocking explanation? Why was partial retention allowed?
They explained that complete memory erasure was harmful to human psychology, partial retention was safer. Important experiences were preserved, specific technical details were blocked. It was a compromise between study secrecy and mental health.
What was the return experience to your vehicle like? Was the transition smooth?
I found myself back in the truck driver's seat. The vehicle was running normally. All mechanical problems were resolved. Initial disorientation, checking the time, realizing significant time had passed. The clock showed 11:30 a.m., approximately 3.5 hours of missing time.
How did you process the missing time realization? What were your immediate actions?
Complete confusion. I couldn't account for the time gap. The vehicle problems were completely gone. The engine was running perfectly. I decided to drive home immediately, too disoriented to call work. I needed to process the experience privately.
What was your physical condition after arrival home? Were there lingering effects?
Extreme fatigue, mental fog, some nausea, small marks on my arms where samples were taken, slight headache. I felt like I was recovering from a medical procedure. I slept several hours and gradually improved.
Did you consider explaining the experience to your family? Any initial disclosure attempts?
My wife noticed my disorientation, lateness, and unusual fatigue. Initially, I claimed car trouble and an extended wait for service. It was too unbelievable to explain immediately. I needed to process the experience personally first.
How did you handle your return to work? What was your absence explanation?
I called in sick the next day. I needed mental recovery time. My supervisor was understanding, assumed the illness was related to car trouble stress. I returned to work 2 days later, focused on maintaining a normal routine.
Did memory recall change in the first few days afterward? Did additional details emerge?
Gradual memory recall increased over the following weeks. More details about examination procedures, the being's technology, communication content, initially fragmented, slowly becoming a more complete picture.
Was this increasing memory recall concerning? Did you consider professional help?
Both relief and anxiety. Relief in understanding what happened, anxiety about the implications. I researched similar experiences online and found other abduction accounts. I considered therapy but worried about credibility concerns.
How much did similar online accounts match your experience? Pattern recognition?
Remarkable similarities, missing time, medical examinations, industrial worker targeting, partial memory blocking. The pattern suggested systematic study of specific human populations, not an isolated incident.
How was your performance at work affected long-term? Concentration changes?
The initial few weeks had difficult concentration, increased awareness of chemical exposures, questioning health effects of industrial work. I eventually adapted, but there was a permanent increase in awareness about occupational hazards.
How did family disclosure eventually occur? What were their reactions?
I eventually told my wife the complete story after several months. Initial skepticism, then supportive concern. The children were curious but accepting. The family was supportive but advised caution about public disclosure.
Did you make health monitoring changes post-experience? Increased medical checkups?
Increased medical monitoring, blood work every 6 months, watching for any unusual health changes. So far normal results, but I'm maintaining vigilance about long-term effects.
How did this experience change your worldview? Was your technology perspective affected?
It completely changed my understanding of technology possibilities and humanity's place in the universe. The realization that technology far beyond human achievement exists. It was a humbling experience about human technological advancement.
Did your factory work perspective change? Did industrial exposure awareness increase?
Much increased awareness of chemical exposures, importance of safety protocols, consideration of long-term health effects. More cautious about industrial toxin exposure, better protective equipment usage.
Have you observed similar experiences in other factory workers? Pattern awareness?
I carefully approached trusted colleagues. A few mentioned unusual experiences, unexplained time gaps, strange dreams. The pattern suggests industrial workers may be targeted for study more frequently than reported.
How do you assess the possibility of future contact? Repeat encounter expectations?
I'm uncertain about future contact, but I feel continued monitoring is possible. I occasionally sense ongoing observation. I'm prepared for a potential repeat encounter. I have better understanding now about their research interests.
Would you be willing to cooperate in research if future contact occurs? Would you consider voluntary participation?
If contact occurs again, I'd be more willing to cooperate knowing their peaceful intentions. The previous experience was traumatic due to the surprise factor. A future encounter might be an educational opportunity rather than a frightening experience.
Finally, what is your advice to industrial workers who experience similar encounters?
Document everything, seek support from understanding people, don't ignore health monitoring. These experiences are real, not mental health issues. Industrial workers may be specific research targets. Maintain awareness, stay healthy, seek truth.
Marcus, thank you for sharing this incredible abduction experience with us. The industrial worker perspective is very valuable for this phenomena.
Thank you, Shelley. I hope my account helps other workers understand they're not alone. The industrial exposure study suggests long-term interest in human adaptation. Truth is important even when it's difficult to believe.
Marcus Williams' experience in Detroit shows that alien intelligence is systematically studying human industrial adaptation, and particularly targeting manufacturing workers. The detailed account from a supervisor with 15 years of automotive experience reveals the connection between this phenomena and occupational health and human technological development. If you've had similar experiences or observed unusual experiences in industrial work environments, please share with us in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to Shelley's Mystery Files channel, and see you in our next mind-blowing story.